Sisters and brothers, a very hearty welcome to each one of you to the first Sunday after Christmas. Coincidentally, this Sunday has two specialities. This year, it happens to be also the last day of the calendar year 2023. Secondly, on this Sunday, we are also celebrating the feast of the Holy Family. Every year, when it gets over, reminds us of the limits of our own human life. At the end of a calendar year, we are invited also to have a retrospection of our own very lives. You remember, when the year 2023 started, we had in fact made a good lot of resolutions. At the end of the year, we must ask ourselves one question: where are we with those resolutions? Have we at least accomplished a few of them? Or are they all thrown to winds? Do we look at the new year that is coming forward, the year 2024, with a sense of hope and with a sense of fulfillment that I have lived my life until now perfectly in accordance with the plan of God? Or at least have I given a try to it? Yes, human life has always a decisive moment in which we may have to make one or the other call to have a different perspective of life. I remind myself of that famous writing of the poetess Sukata Kumari. In one of her poems, she writes one sentence like this: "When I look into the mirror, when I look into the mirror." That is a challenging invitation. To look into the mirror is to have a replica of my own personality in front of me. At the end of this year, am I able to look into the mirror and say, I resemble God who invited me to be His image and likeness in my life? Let us be clear about the choices that we make. Perhaps it's also a very interesting and important aspect that we celebrate today, the Feast of the Holy Family. Very often I used to ask when I conduct a seminar or a recollection to families, what in fact does the Holy Family portray before each one of us? Very many of the people whom I have asked this question have answered me, yes, Holy Family is an ideal family. I personally would like to take a difference with that statement. I would rather say, Holy Family for me is like a lighthouse. What is the speciality of a lighthouse? A lighthouse is not meant for showing light to those who are inside the ship. A lighthouse is meant to show those inside the ship how distant they are from the shore. Yes, that in fact is the role of the Holy Family. Holy Family, of course, is an ideal space to be lived in, but all the more it is an invitation for us to see how far are we living the role models of Joseph, Mary, and Jesus in our own very families. Or are we distancing ourselves from that reality of that Holy Family? All the readings of today invite us perfectly to attune our mindset to this understanding of seeing God's plan in our family life. In the first reading from the book of Genesis, we have that encounter of Yahweh the Lord with Abraham. He tells Abraham, I am your shield, and I will multiply your progeny. You know, Abraham was rather provoked at this statement of God. He tells God, what are you talking, my God? I'm married, of course, but I do not have children at all. And you would say that I will be having progeny? God takes him out and tells him, look at the stars in the sky. Look at the sand on the shore of the sea. Your children will be as numberless as they are. Yes, God's understanding of a family has to be very different from that of the human imagination. We always attach the concept of a family with that of procreation of children. I sometimes ask myself, the fabric and the foundation of a family, is it the procreation of children or something else? According to the Catholic theology, we would understand marriage, which is a covenantal relationship, is constituted by God for the sake of the love between the spouses. Church, in its teaching on the sacrament of marriage, would say there are three dimensions of marital life. The very first one is an indissoluble union between the husband and the wife. Two human beings coming together in the name of God and making a discernment of their life that they would be together till the last breath of their life, in spite of all the differences and contradictions that they may experience in their life. Indissoluble union. That is precisely the reason the Catholic Church would say marriage is a sacrament, and for that matter is a covenantal relationship, foundationally built on God Himself. It is not a contract between two persons. A contract can be broken off at any time at one's whims and fancies, but a covenant is something that is bound on mutual inspiration and mutual faith in the other. Therefore, the very first aspect of this holy family, which is envisaged in the life of each one of us, is to have that indissoluble union. The second aspect of marital relationship is inviolable faithfulness. Yes, my dear sisters and brothers, in the context of the modern society, which emphasizes so much on the secular values, the marital commitment and lifelong relationship between the husband and wife are constantly challenged. As a result, we see the number of divorces that are happening in the history of the church today, in the world today. People are no more willing to take lasting relationship as a possibility of their life. When someone's lifestyle does not suit to that of mine, I immediately look for a different way of life. Tragedy is happening in the life of couples, affecting the life and the fabric of the family. Inviolable faithfulness. The one whom I marry in my life need not be always the best, but God has made a choice of him or her for me in my life, and I take that as a commitment to live it until the last breath of my life. As a consequence of this indissoluble union and inviolable faithfulness, we find there is that aspect of the procreation of children. Sisters and brothers, let us always be aware of one truth. Children are the gift of God. In our mutual understanding of each other, in our sharing of the love with each other, in our conjugal relationship, we commitment to that plan of the procreation with God. Therefore, children become part of our families because we have partaken in the life-creative aspect of God in our own lives too. It is God's will that we have children. And therefore, when children are given to us, let us rear them up with that commitment of God Himself to the humanity. It is here that we see Joseph and Mary now coming with Jesus to the temple to consecrate Him. What a beautiful scene. This young couple coming to the temple to consecrate their only son. We see three-dimensional aspect of their relationship itself there, very well nuanced and projected before us. First and foremost, in this surrender of Mary and Joseph of Jesus in the temple, we see the first aspect of a mother's life, that is, the sign of purity. After the childbirth, according to the Jewish law, a woman has to be behind the shut doors without any human contact for 7 days. Thereafter, for another 33 days, she should be also totally distanced from any public contact. After 40 days of personal purification, she comes into the church now to offer this little child to God. Every mother is a symbol of self-sacrifice, a total sign of purity in herself, which is permeating the whole family where she lives. We know all about our own mothers too. How much are they pure in their attitude, in their commitment? Look into the lives of your own mothers. When I look at my mother, I see the resemblance of that purity through her permeated in our family. Almost every day I have noticed her getting up at 4:30 in the morning. Having made all the household works, she goes to church every day without fail. Thereafter coming back, her whole life is a sacrifice for the sake of the family. In the evening, she would be the one who is animating the evening prayer of the family. During the time of Advent and Lent, she would be on strict fasting and penance. The purity of a mother, which has imbued the life of the family, can never be forgotten. Mary stands today, just like our own mother, as a symbol of the Holy Family through her pure personal commitment to God. The second dimension that we see in the life of the Holy Family as Joseph and Mary are coming to the temple now to offer Jesus is the obedience of the Father. Joseph in the Bible is depicted as an obedient man. What is obedience? Obedience comes from that Latin root ob audire, which means listen attentively. Joseph always had an extra listening capacity to what God wanted of him. He listened to the words of the angel. He listened to the commands given by God. He listened to his wife Mary. He listened to Jesus, the young one who was with him, always on that listening mode. Is it not true about our fathers at home? Very often we find when mothers are the spokespersons of the family, fathers are the most silent people. They always listened attentively. To this listening, yet another one concept that is always attached is that dimension of righteousness. Even about Simeon today, when he is coming to meet this child, it is said he was a just and devout man. About Joseph in the Bible, it is mentioned he is a just man. One of the most repeated words in the Holy Bible is the word righteousness. Sisters and brothers, a person imbued with the sense of justice and righteousness will always be able to listen attentively to the higher realities of his life. The obedience of Joseph brings home to Jesus the sense of purpose of his own mission in life. And the third dimension is the aspect of the consecration of the child. The word consecration comes from that Latin root consecrare, which means set apart for holy purposes. Jesus' life is not for himself. It is not meant for the family of Joseph and Mary. It is meant for the humanity around us. He is set apart for holy purposes. Today, as we celebrate the feast of the Holy Family, on the last day of the calendar year 2023, let's have a retrospection of our own lives too. Are we really purified? Are we obedient? Are we totally consecrated? Are we holy in our families? Amen.